Hey, everybody, welcome to EIS Live. Yes, that's right. Here we are again, live from sunny Southern California, from my classy studio in the background here. I know how much you love that. Just changed it around 5 minutes ago from another room, from a rec room to a studio. We move fast around here. So anyway, just for those of you who may not know what EIS is, otherwise known as Emotional Intelligence Solutions, we're a counseling, coaching, and mentoring entity that helps people find the freedom in their lives to become all that they're intended to be, discovering their why and their purpose. So how do we do that? So we do it by employing a process that gives people the opportunity to go far enough in their past. They're uncovering unbroken, unhealed, undealt with areas that prevent them from discovering healthy patterns in life as individuals, in relationships, marriages, business, other employment settings, and helping to deal with the whole person and not just fix certain areas, which, counseling has a reputation. The word counseling has a reputation for something's wrong with me, I got to go fix it. We take much more of a proactive, holistic approach in helping people just really to discover themselves in the process. And along the way, other areas that are broken can be repaired. We also extend this process into leadership development, as we believe leadership starts from within and in the home and is translated outwardly from there. It's not just about being a great problem solver or decision maker, or having a great skill set, or have the ability to lead people. It's really about raising other people up to be all that they're called to be, just like we just mentioned here, developing character, integrity, accountability, and other hallmarks of genuine leadership. So we believe we offer a comprehensive approach to personal growth and maturity for the individual, to the CEOs and businesses and everyone in between. So, and you'll be given the opportunity throughout the broadcast. You'll see some things popping up with some opportunities to connect with us if you desire to do so. And then the live shows, which we're on right now, are here to feature testimonies of people's lives that have been transformed in many different ways, that are still on their journey, other professionals in the field, helping people in the same ways or similar ways, or augmenting the process that EIS uses, other staff counselors, authors of books that we believe are important to support the work that we do here at EIS. And then finally, before we get started today, I want to remind you that you're welcome to ask questions throughout the broadcast and post them, as well as comments, and we'll do our best to answer them towards the end of the broadcast. And we have a lot going on today. So first thing I want to do is introduce my media guru, social media guru, tech guru, Vanessa Rollo.
Hi.
Hey, Ness.
How are you, Bill?
Oh, I'm good. Look at that. We got applause.
I love that.
Yay. How you doing?
I am good. I'm not coming to you all from sunny California, but making it work here in New York.
Is it hot and humid there in New York?
Yeah, cloudy, sun kind of peeking out, hot, humid, the hair. That's why it's pulled back today.
Yeah, I got a bad hair day too. I totally get that. Well, are you excited today for our show?
So excited to hear from our very special guests and some testimony. It's just going to be awesome. I'm so excited.
One thing I wanted to throw on the table today, too, kind of starting off, is that I don't want to tell stories about you or anything, but I think it's important for people to know that you yourself are involved in the process, right? And I'm just so grateful for that. And as I tell you all the time, I'm always making sure that you're getting what you need first, and not just helping us out here. So can you just tell people what it's kind of like on both levels of that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of working with you and doing this work behind the scenes, and whether it's social media work through the lives, I'm constantly being put in front of people that are just true examples of what the process can do, and people doing similar work and all of those things. So it's really awesome to be immersed in that constantly and learning from people. But on the back end, working with you, I know it's completely changed my life for the better. It's hard for me when I look back. It's hard for me, I think, to externalize my feelings sometimes. But looking back on life before meeting you and going through the process, I just look at it as like a dark time. And I definitely was calling out for help. And I didn't even know it. It wasn't like I was pleading with God for that. God wasn't even a word that I was even familiarized with, or that type of relationship. So all those things have developed since then, where I have this faith element that you've introduced me to that was never really introduced to me before. Self-awareness, temperament, all those things that have just begun to help me just be excited and looking forward to life, whereas life was like this like dreary life, like big mountain that I thought I'd have to tackle, and it was just a lot of negative feelings, I think, when I look back on life before then. So I'm just really excited to be immersed in the process with you and just continue to progress, and I'm just so grateful.
Awesome. And I point out all the time that you're just 21 now, right?
Yes.
So we really started working together, I think, when we were 19, right?
Yep.
Yep. And I pointed out all the time is that I'm just so blessed to be able to work with so many young people, because in my life, from the age of basically 15 to 30, I was just a drunken maniac, and running all over the country and just doing stupid stuff. So it's just such a huge blessing to be able to speak into people's lives, young people, and have like yourself, like have an opportunity to live your entire life the way that you were intended to. And, thanks for sharing that, like feeling like it was just this dark hole. And, how many people at your age actually do feel that way? Like, what's the point of all this anyway?
Yeah, and I think especially for me, I'd gotten to a point where it was just like my past trauma and just I was being triggered left and right. So I was just kind of just like this bomb waiting to go off at all times. And I was sick of living that way. And I felt so out of control that you really brought an awareness that I had a lot more control than I thought I did. And it really started with me making the decision to cut a lot of stuff out and just work. That's really what it came down to and has come down to, and I'm just going to continue to do because I've seen the result it's had in my life thus far. So
awesome. Well, thanks for that, and you get to be an example for a lot of other young people along the way too. So
thank you.
Yay. Thanks for sharing that. Well, our guests today, I'm really excited about this, are Vinnie and Liz DeMarco, and I met them back when I was still working with New York City Relief. I don't know how many years ago now, and a mutual associate and friend, Juan Galloway, had introduced us because I was doing counseling kind of part-time back then in the evenings out of the New York City Relief offices. And Juan thought it would be a great, kind of opportunity for us to get to know one another, because Vinnie and Liz had a specialized, kind of ministry focus in restoring the foundations that I was aware of. I hadn't been a, partaker of that, but I was aware of it, and I knew that it had similarities with the kind of work, especially in the areas of generational curses, transfers, past traumas, things like that. That's the same kind of work that we were doing. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that later. But they have a unique, specialized approach. That's what they're going to be talking about today, is how they go about this. And really, what it is I've sent I don't know how many people to them, but they don't replace EIS. They don't replace what we do, but they really play a vital role in augmenting the work that we do in terms of helping a person to go back into that trauma child, if you will, and that past trauma, to find a deep degree of healing. And once again, they're going to articulate as much of that as they can today. And but what I really love about them, besides all of that, is I told them on the call the other night when we were kind of checking out our platform here, making sure that it worked, is that I love just looking at their stuff on Facebook, because they give me joy just watching their relationship unfold. They're just such a great couple. They're best friends. They work together. They're married, of course. It's just great to see that. And then lastly, if you check out, maybe Vinnie can tell us later, point us to his Facebook or something, but the guy shreds the guitar like nobody had ever seen. So it's really cool. He's a cool dude. So let's welcome Vinnie and Liz DeMarco. Let's see if I can push the right buttons and let them in. Yay! Oh, yes, the audience, studio audience.
Sweet.
Yes. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Well, here you are.
Here we are. So it begins.
It begins. That's right. You know, it's kind of funny because we're pretty upfront with like what we're doing here, you know, in front of everybody else. And it's like we pretend like we haven't talked.
Yeah.
5 minutes ago, yesterday, last week, you know.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, how you guys doing? You know,
One time, yeah.
But yeah, I'm seriously, you know, you guys are just such a huge blessing, and I'm just so happy that you know took the time out to be here with us.
Oh, you
Thanks.
too.
Yeah, it's mutual. I mean, we're really grateful for the opportunity to share. So, thanks a lot.
Yeah. So as always, I really like to kind of have people kind of start off just so we can get to know you a little bit and talk a little bit about, you know, your background, you know, where you came from, how you got together, you know, how you got involved in working together. We don't need the whole thing, Liz, but just some points, you know, just to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll kick it off. So I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I brought up in a Christian home. After high school, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Wasn't too interested in just going to college for whatever. I didn't really have any specific things I wanted to pursue in that specific vein. So I kind of dove right into missions work with an organization called Youth with a Mission. And it's basically a huge missions organization. They're located all over the world, and you can study pretty much anything you'd like, tied in with like practical on the field missionary work. And so I had been affiliated with them for really almost 7 years on and off after high school, taking different courses with them in different places in the country, and then traveling to different countries and, you know, implementing what I had learned and things like that. So that's a little bit about myself. I love music. I play guitar and a lot of different instruments. Really like rock and roll and heavy metal, and I used to be in a heavy metal band and have a couple different music projects and things like that. So enjoy that a lot. I also really enjoy exercise and been pursuing that for the past couple of years as well. And actually hoping to eventually integrate it with what we do with RTF, hopefully pretty soon. So it's a little bit about myself.
I grew up all over the South, totally different. I moved around a little bit, got my bachelor's in psychology, and thought I wasn't really sure what route I would be going with that afterwards. And I considered counseling, but I just felt the Lord kept calling me to the mission field. So between working, I just kind of like Vinny did with YWAM, but I was with a lot of different organizations. I just ended up over really a span of like probably 8 to 9 years, just going all over the world, doing what he told me to do. And in the process of that, I found RTF through IRIS. Vinny found it through YWAM, both large missions organizations. And we ended up, before we knew each other, deciding to get fully trained, which at the time, the base was in Hendersonville, North Carolina. So when we met each other in training, basically, in 2016.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you've been married for how long now?
3 years now.
Oh, yeah,
right?
over 3 years.
Over 3 years. Time flies.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you and I, Vinny, started, did you even know Liz when I first met you?
No. So I had gotten, like Liz had said, I was introduced to the method of restoring foundations while I was taking counseling courses in Kona, Hawaii, at one of the YWAM bases out there. And I was so stoked about it, and got back to Jersey, and I was just looking for as many opportunities as I could to share it with people. And yeah, I hadn't known Liz at that point yet, but that's right around the time that we had met, which was probably right around 2000. I'm thinking probably 2016 or so, I think, roughly. So, and you really were a godsend. I was so grateful to have met with you and you really understood and connected. It was just really, it was a perfect fit, you know? So I'm just, for all these years, I'm just so grateful that we've had the opportunity to work with you, even before I knew Liz. So it's cool.
But then you got together somewhere along the line.
Yeah. So I believe it was back in 2017. Well,
Like,
was it 18?
A year after training, or a
Yeah.
year and a half after training.
We dove into training probably, I think, in 2017 or 18. We're just really good friends during the training. Training was very intensive, 6 months of just like hardcore dealing with your own stuff, you know, personally, but
we practiced
also
on each other.
Yeah, practicing on each other, but also meeting with a lot of different individuals that were flying in and coming in to receive as well. So lots of heavy stuff just all around. But it was just because of how the process is and what happens when we do it. It's also extremely rewarding, and like it kind of fills up the soul in a way. So it's balanced. You know, you're dealing with some pretty heavy stuff for yourself and other people, but it's very rewarding to see what happens as people submit to it, and you know, God shows up and things like that. So yeah, so that's where we had met, and we didn't kind of transition into dating or anything like that until maybe about a year after.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then soon after, I think it was a year after that, we got married, and then we both dove into doing the ministry together, which has been really awesome. It's really great to have, you know, a partner to go through all this with and stuff. You know, so.
Well, like I said before, you guys are perfect together, you know.
Thanks.
And it shows. I'm sure everything isn't perfect all the time at home, you know, and I get that, but you know, I can totally see how you're brought together and all of that. So,
Thanks.
so I do want to let people know that in a few minutes we do have a couple of people who have received from you guys in terms of, you know, the work that you do. But what I'd like to do is, I'm sure probably most people that are watching and will watch later on never heard of RTF, have no idea what it's about. So maybe we can kind of lay that out there. And I know you won't be able to put all the pieces out there today. And later on, we're going to give people obviously the opportunity to check your website out and to follow through and maybe connect with you if they desire to, you know, go further down that with you and all that. But can we talk about some of those facets? And I know, Liz, the other night we talked about, what is it? Is it the 4 or 5?
Yeah, Vinnie can explain the 4 areas.
Yeah, I just dive in and do a brief summary of it and everything. So Restoring the Foundation, RTF stands for Restoring the Foundations. It was founded by a couple in North Carolina. The woman was a PhD, I guess, in counseling. And then the husband, the man, he was actually a former rocket scientist. So they began a deliverance ministry. And in the process of bringing that all together and figuring it out and them kind of discovering it and unfolding, they formulated, what is now currently Restoring the Foundations. So Restoring the Foundations is essentially inner healing, prayer, and deliverance ministry. So, and we have we have 2 different formats that we offer. There's what's called an issue focus session, which is about a 3 to 4 hour session. And then we have a thorough format session, which is a week's worth of ministry. So 3-hour sessions for a whole week. So it's 5 days. It's a lot more extensive. In both section, both ones that we do, we go through the same exact integrated approach that's comprised of 4 problem areas that we've said. So I'll just run through each of those briefly, and if folks have questions or anything like that, we'll answer those and things. So some of these you might be familiar with for those who are listening, just because you guys work with Bill, and so as you said as well, Bill, there are definitely a lot of similarities and crossovers here. So. So the first area we'll deal with is what we call sins of the fathers and resulting curses. And that's basically where we're just dealing with generational sin patterns in the family line. Usually if somebody's struggling with something in particular, let's say, for example, like anxiety, high level anxiety or depression, most likely it didn't originate with them. And so usually you can recognize some form or pattern coming down the family line. And so after we identify that, we go through a prayer where we're basically recognizing that it's a pattern, forgiving individuals who might have influenced us to fall into that pattern, forgiving ourselves, and then breaking that pattern from a spiritual standpoint off the person's generational line. And then also in every portion of the ministry, the prayer ministry, we're providing space for the individual to connect with God, and actually learn how to hear directly from him and stuff. And so once the generational pattern is broken, we provide space for the person to receive a specific blessing from God, which is always really cool because a lot of individuals aren't aware that they can actually connect and speak to God directly and hear from him. It's maybe not just as common of a teaching. So our goal is to help facilitate an environment where people can quiet themselves and realize that they can actually connect with God on that level, and then just receive what he specifically is saying. So that's the first section.
Hey, before you go on, Vin, let me interrupt.
Yeah.
So just for people that might be watching and will be watching later for sure, hearing all this talk about God and everything, and of course, it's an integral part of that.
Yeah.
But we just want to make sure people don't need to be super spiritual or, connected to some religious faction in any way, shape, or form, right? To be able to receive
no, absolutely not. We always say to folks, as long as you're just willing and open to submit to the process, it'll be fine. And, we're facilitating it. And so I don't think over the 5 or 6, 7 years I've been doing it, I don't think I've ever had an instance with somebody who, as long as they were open, they didn't receive some, substantial revelation or healing or both. And so that's what we always say. As long as you're open, it's going to be a wild ride and it'll be good. But no, you don't necessarily have to be in the know or associated with a specific religion necessarily. It is a Christian ministry, but, that's not necessarily, not everybody.
We've had people from that don't know where they are with the Lord. They don't know what they believe. They believe in God, but it's kind of like they don't know where they are, and they show up and they just totally have a crazy encounter. And by the end of it, they're like,
whoa.
The totally different perspective. I mean, you've seen it, Bill. You've seen them come out just looking completely different.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking even Vanessa, when Vanessa shared earlier, when we started, God wasn't a part of her life at all,
Yeah.
And, just connecting those dots, it could be intimidating, I think, if we don't clear that up for people right at the onset,
Oh, absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, it's because religion in general has kind of painted God to be something that he really isn't. And so a lot of times people tend to have that kind of feeling I just don't know because of what religion's painted him to be. But that's part of the joy that we have is as long as that person's open, we have the opportunity to provide space for them to actually connect. And really begin to discover who he really is. And in turn, self-discovery takes place as well, which kind of like you were saying, that's ultimately what one of your goals is, to help people begin to grow in self-discovery. So yeah.
Cool. So the next steps?
Yeah. So next thing we address is ungodly beliefs, we call them, but essentially they're just lies that people are believing associated with their issue. So whatever their issue is, when we're experiencing pain and things like that, we're vulnerable. And so we're in a place where we can easily be susceptible to believing lies about ourselves or about other people or about God. And so we identify a couple of those lies through the application process that the receiver will fill out. And then we'll address them in a similar format, confessing, forgiving, breaking agreement with the lie. And then once again, at the end, providing space to receive some truth from God in regards to what his perspective is about them, about, other people and things like that. And then our heart moving forward is to help encourage and equip the receiver to begin to meditate on the truth they've received so that they can be transformed in their mindsets and align more so with who they really are, and therefore begin to function in that truth.
We base that on several verses. One is talking about renewing the mind, but the one that I like the most is in Proverbs, where it's basically saying, like, as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. So we want to position the person to be able to renew their mind to the point where they're becoming who they're meditating on who God actually made them to be. And then you start becoming that.
Yeah.
And you don't function out of these, like, what we would call false identities and things that ultimately are lies that come from the enemy. So, yeah. And the next one is soul, spirit, hurts, which is really, I like to call them soul, spirit, hurt healings, because they're, this is actually our favorite part. Do you want to do this one?
I mean, yeah, I can if you want, or you're already kind of going,
Okay.
so go for it.
I'll do this. So we this part is just completely like, we're kind of surrendering control to like what God would want to do. So the person has their eyes closed the whole time in this section, and we're basically just asking them to have God take them to the memory that he wants to heal. So this is where it can be really huge for, like you said, the traumatized child, like, part of people. A lot of times they end up going back to all kinds of different memories. Sometimes they didn't even remember them until they get taken there. And they're inviting God into that memory and that place for his healing to come in and to have him heal their hearts. This can really be, this is probably our favorite section, because the way that people get healed is like so unique to the person and different every time. And it really just allows them to, I guess, like, use their imagination and have God use their imagination to just see what they actually, like, things they didn't even know that they needed, he'll just end up doing. And we just get to watch it and record it and send them notes. So the last section is demonic oppression that we do. So this is the last of the 4 areas. This, without going into a ton of theological explanation, basically any issue that people come in with, we want to just use the authority that was, you know, that God gave us to take authority over our own lives. And we're basically just, it's a deliverance ministry. So we're kicking out demons. So whether you believe that or not, we've seen some really interesting things can happen when you start doing this, especially because we believe that the pain in our hearts and the trauma that people have been through, and lies that we're believing, or sins in our lives that are in our family line, and the resulting curses from that coming down from the patterns, all of those things can be open doors for the demonic. So it's funny because a lot of people don't know what they believe about this, but then we start kicking stuff out and they're agreeing with us and stuff starts happening. And I think one of the people we were going to have on, that was a really significant section for her. But yeah, and it sounds like, oh, it can't be that easy, but sometimes it is. And there's just drastic different, you know, just from taking authority over some stuff. So.
I think that section, you know, is somewhat taboo in a lot of areas. You know, demonic oppression is like, oh, you know, like Exorcist or something like that. I get a kick out. I like all the horror stuff and everything, and so I get a kick out of it. I love that kind of stuff. Might seem kind of taboo and creepy, but because it's an integrated approach, it's really a smooth process. So, you know, we don't have people levitating or, you know, contorting or anything like that. And what we're
also clearing that up, man. I appreciate it.
Just to specify as well, what we're talking about is like spiritual oppression. So when people give into lies, like Liz said, it creates space for there to be some extra pressure added in a spiritual format. And so we just want to deal with, if it's potentially there, we want to address that specific added spiritual pressure that could be on people because of the choices that they've made, the situations that they've been a part of and stuff. Yep. So, that's interesting.
Well, when Liz said, as a man believes in his heart, so he is, I say that all the time. And so that's why, taking your thoughts captive, being transformed by the renewing of your mind is so huge. I mean, for myself, and then Ness, before we introduce our next, guests, maybe if you have a question or two you want to throw in or a comment. But me being a melancholy compulsive across the board, my thinking forever has been overthinking, and usually thinking negatively and not true thoughts. So I just frame myself out to be the loser, the one who didn't get it, the one who couldn't do it, the excluded one, the disqualified one. And as I thought, so I was, so I thought I was a dope. I thought I was the one who couldn't get it. And so when I went into situations in life, that's how I acted out. And I became a self-fulfilling prophecy, So it's very, very practical in its approach, really, in terms of like you said, it's not like people are just walking around, like manifesting demons walking down the street, and barking or something, that we're talking about. We're talking about the same stuff that we do here at EIS, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Just a different approach in attacking those issues.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Renewing the mind can bring deliverance in itself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's really the core
Of the whole thing.
of all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And a little later, you can talk about like the disciplines that come afterwards and so on.
Yeah.
So before we get Pollyanna and Victoria in, Ness, do you have anything you want to throw in at this point?
No questions. I'm just so intrigued. I did a little bit of research before today, but for me, this is just something I feel like I have to experience firsthand. So you might be put in contact with me later on.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, we'd love to, for sure.
Well, cool. I'm going to ask Pollyanna and Victoria to come in. And before I pop them in, I'll intro, because Pollyanna, I really want her to share first. But the thing with Pollyanna, I was working with her for a while. And I don't know what led up to this, but one day she just said, Bill, is there a place I can go for like a spiritual detox or something? And I said, yes, I have just the place. And that's how they got connected. So Pollyanna is coming on, and I'm going to have Victoria come on as well. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Well, thanks for joining us. I think it's just super important, especially with stuff like this that people are not familiar with. As RTF, like what is it and all that, and how do we connect it to EIS and all that. And so it's important, just before you guys get started sharing, to know that this is something that, kind of augments the process at EIS. This is a specialized direction and an approach to certain areas in people's lives, and can add new disciplines and things of that nature, so that when they're, it's basically you're working on very, very similar problems. Sometimes I've sent people that have just had a real struggle getting over a specific area. And I thought, I would think like they just need to go to Vinnie and Liz kind of thing, to really help them to get in touch with things that maybe we're just not able to, make that connection for. So maybe Vinnie and Liz, maybe you can kind of start Pollyanna off and talk about your experience together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I was just I'll just go ahead and share what I wanted to share about yours. Really, Pollyanna was so unique. Like, it's been like 2.5 years, I think, and she just still stands out in our minds. I think the most significant thing for her was the deliverance portion that we talked about. And I just remember when we were we have like groupings. Basically, we didn't really go over this, but like we'll pick
roots and fruits, basically.
Yeah. So like maybe someone, this wasn't Pollyanna's, but like just for an example, maybe someone comes in with like depression or addiction. Well, those are roots. And the roots that we really want to deal with are going to be like the trauma or the abandonment, mm-hmm. and the orphan lifestyle and an emergence that comes out of that. So we pick like 3 to 4 root and fruit lists that are strongholds that we're doing. So when we were breaking the generational curses with those sections, we had 3 sections with her. And I remember when we were kicking them out in the demonic oppression section, it was like a struggle. You can share more about this later, but it was like a struggle. And I remember Vinny was gonna like pause and like say some prayers, and he goes, "I want it to be less than 10." And she was like, no. She's like, "I want it in 10." and I was like, "Oh, I like this girl." But as we did each section, kicking it out with her, I remember her saying in the first section, she's like, "Oh, the pain's gone out of my neck." And then like it's gone out of the middle of my back, and then it's gone out of my lower back. So she actually, and I know we'll get into this later, but like there's such a connection between like the spirit and the soul and emotions and the body.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's not uncommon for us to be addressing spiritual wounds, but actually have healing, like physical healings happen. And Pollyanna was kind of one of those that had one of those. So it was great.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So what was your favorite thing you can share?
Well, so yeah, I used to do like my session with Bill, and you know, I was very like insecure person, anxious, and you know, I I couldn't forgive and I couldn't listen, not only like the people around me, but myself. So that's why like I came to Bill and I said, "Bill, do you know somebody that they do like?" Because when it was because Bill, he used to do like he prays before and after the sessions. So when we were like doing the praying and stuff, he was something came to my mind with this detox, spiritual detox. And that's why I came and approached him. I was like, "Do you know somebody?" And then he said yes. So, and then that's why, I met you guys. And, for me, when I, I thought when I went there at the church and, I thought like the session is going to be like nice and quiet session. We'll be like, cool, okay, it's going to be work, but, it didn't even cross my mind like it was going to be like really deep session, like a detox, really a detox one. And that's why I was like, no, I need to do this. And like Lee said, that was like every time each phase of the session they were working with me was really intense. And sometimes like I thought like I wouldn't be finished, like couldn't finish the session because I was like, I feel like I can't do this. I couldn't speak. I couldn't, I was crying. It was like, and then I felt God and I was like, no, I need to finish this. So let's do this, I remember that. And what else? And I remember that's another thing, like every step we were doing it, I remembered like things that in my past, I couldn't remember everything, like what happened. And then a lot of things start coming to my mind. And I was like talking about my school and everything, what happened. And, that was, I was like very impressed for that time for sure. And what else? I felt a lot of the presence of God during every phase of the session, yeah, that's what I can remember. I remember when I, about forgiving people, not only people that around me, like especially, my parents and other people around me, like from my relationship and stuff, but myself, that was really deep and intense for me. And then one thing that I learned that I thought like I could forgive it's an easy step to do it, but no, it's not. It's a process, So it's a thing that you need like to forgive. You need to it takes time and dedication, love, and you need to open your heart to God, so that way he can help you to this journey. So that's one thing that I think it helped me to start listen more to God and listen to myself as well. So because I couldn't hear myself before, I couldn't hear, like, I didn't let God come to me, and talk to me the way that, in this session that happened, it was really, really good. Yeah.
Well, I remember when I saw you at an event right after or shortly after you had gone, and you were literally a different person. Yeah. You had a glow about you that was just so distinctive. I remember seeing you that day, and I was like, wow. This is amazing, it really is. It's like sending somebody to a detox and a rehab or something, and they come out after, and like all of that stuff is gone that they were doing before and the way they were living before, and you just had this lightness about you and this glow.
But the thing is, I remember like she said, like Liz said too, that I was having a lot of trouble with my back, like backache a lot in my neck and everything, and sometimes you think like, oh, it's just because I'm doing exercise, or I am, my posture or something. But no, that's a lot of things going on inside of you that that happens. You feel in your body feels that. Mm-hmm. So when I did all that detox, it was like, I told them, I was like, I'm feeling very peaceful right now, very peaceful, and like I don't feel my back, I don't have back pain right now, and for a while I didn't have.
You pray some more.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Well, thanks for that. Stick around, because we'll have some questions and stuff. Maybe some people will ask you some questions specifically too. With Victoria, we had been working together we talked earlier that, like when you were newlyweds.
Yeah.
And things were a little bit wild in the earlier days. And we kept working together for a while. And actually, I don't think did I refer you to Vinnie and Liz, or was it?
I think it was you or Zamali, but it was definitely referred to me, I think 2 or 3 times. I was told to go see Vinnie and Liz, I think 4 times. I was disobedient the first 2 times. I was like, sure, that sounds nice. And they're like, when's your appointment? I was like, well, see. So I was stubborn in the beginning.
But you did wind up going.
I did.
So maybe we can share a little bit about your experience too.
Definitely. Thank you, Bill, for having us on. Thank you guys all for being here. This is really an honor to be speaking with all of you on one platform. But I was a bad student, a bad mentee, so to speak. I was not told, but recommended by Bill, Zamali, and 3 other of the main influencers in my life who I trust with everything in my life, who have counseled me in every other aspect, to go see you guys. And I was like, cool, maybe. I don't know if that's for me. And I don't know why, because I'm usually very open to fix me. Here I am, as I am, and just help me get better. I'm usually very much like that. And I don't know. It was at a time, I think, it was about a year ago in February, before everything with the world happened. And you guys are in New Jersey, and I'm in Long Island, and I had a million excuses. Well, the bridge, the toll, the traffic, I have a kid, why would I do, I just had a million and one excuses. But my husband, we have been going to see Bill and Molly for about 5 years now, and we've been getting better, but there were certain things that were just not budging. We were repeating the same cycles over and over again, and Andrew, my husband, was seeing me repeat the same cycles that he wanted me to get free from, and I was growing very angry, which to the outside, I'm a pretty bubbly person, so I mask it super well to my own, you can kind of tell there's a fire under there that's just not right. It's not the good fire. It's just angry. And so I was really angry. I was getting really resentful, really aggressive, in not the greatest ways. My husband is a saint, and I think he calls me a saint, and with him, it's very mutual. We're very grateful for each other right now that we stuck it out together. But I remember my drive to New Jersey, and I remember I brought my notebook because I was going to impress you guys and be the best student. I got there, and you're like, okay, we'll take notes for you. You can leave your book on the ground. I was like, what? You get through this by like taking notes the whole time. But it was awesome. I'm really giving back because you guys followed up with me, and it was really amazing. I'm super controlling. I don't know if that comes through at all in here, but I'm very controlling, and I hate when circumstances are out of control. And I was like, I hope Liz is getting all these notes down right. Like, but I was able to fully surrender, which is awesome. I think it's rare for those of you who are like really wound up like me, and it's hard to surrender. Like I didn't even know why I was that way, but growing up, we walked through certain situations and we kind of went back into my mind. I was able to revisit my childhood. Like, that's why I'm controlling, or this is why, I have abandonment, or, feelings of unworthiness, like never good enough. And if I can just control everything now, I can make that all right. And it was really awesome to be able to fully just totally relax and surrender to the process, like you guys talk about.
By the way, what's your temperament? I forget.
Oh, okay. So in inclusion, I'm a supine phlegmatic. So invite me so I can say no. But if you don't invite me, I'll be devastated. In control, I'm a melancholy. So I don't want any responsibility. Don't make me the boss or the leader, but I'm going to control you the whole way in an anxious way. And then in affection, I'm a sanguine compulsive, but don't touch me at all unless I want to touch you. And then I need a lot of affirmation, and I need a compulsive amount of love. I like swing to like love me from over there, never touch me, hug me, or do anything, versus squeeze me, hold me tight. But the people that know me as Victoria that's like, do I hug her? Do I not hug her? Like, you wouldn't know I'm the sanguine in that area.
Well, that's because you're melancholy in control.
That's right.
Love me, love me, love me.
Yes. It makes it impossible for my poor husband and all the people in my life who do enjoy being around me genuinely, though I question it. They like just want to be my friend and love me, and I'm like, no.
So maybe you can get a little specific. And Vanessa, I don't want to keep jumping in, but if you have any questions, anytime, obviously jump in there with them. But maybe, Victoria, you can get a little specific, kind of like Pollyanna was talking about certain areas in particular that,
Yes.
You probably went because we made you go pretty much. But I know you knew that there was areas that needed attention as well. And, it sounded to me like you really had a powerful experience there. So what were the main points that you walked away from that with?
This is a lot to share. We share it so casually here because this is like our world that we live in. Like, we live in like vulnerabilities and healing traumas, and some people are like, that's really intense. So I'm sharing this, and it's on my Facebook page right now. So for whoever wants to know, but there's like strength in vulnerability, and like it empowers people, I believe, when we're sharing this. So there was a few things, because I had like deliverances, detoxes in the past. Like, I walked through some big things. Like, I had overcome a really major suicide attempt, followed by like some minor ones, and like that was like a huge one for me. And like overcoming drugs and alcohol, and those were like, I don't even remember those anymore. I'm like, oh yeah, what a different person that was. Like, it's a different place. So to be able, like, the issues that I was dealing with currently when I saw you guys seemed so minuscule compared to what I had gone through 10 years ago almost, with literally struggling, like, do I want to live anymore? But it's interesting because I guess our current struggles, it's so subjective. So I was really dealing with a ton of jealousy, insecurity, to the point where I couldn't trust myself. I didn't trust my husband. I didn't trust people in my life. I thought I was over a lot of my childhood stuff, but I had like so much anger and resentment. And I had my son at the time was 3.5, and he started to like really, kids don't really know how to emotionally regulate themselves in general, but he was really angry, and he was feeling, I felt like I was looking in the mirror, looking at my son. Like, all my I am like kind of shaking, telling you, which I don't usually shake or tremor right now, but I'm just like a little, it's hard. So, and even now I'm seeing him walk through something that I probably walked through when I was 14, and he's 4, poor kid, but we're working on it with him. But I needed to overcome those things so that I could be present for him and my husband and myself, and still, like, not just you go to have this experience and you walk away like magic, like, oh, it's all good now, I'm a good person, but it's, okay, you have, like you said, restoring your foundation. So the foundation of who I was needed to be healed. Kind of like in a home, like you can add all these things. You can add a 4 seasons, or you can add an extension. But if your foundation isn't healed, there's going to be bowing in the foundation. And I know that because I'm learning about houses right now. But there's going to be bowing in the foundation, which will eventually weaken, and then you'll crumble, and you're going to have a crack, and you won't be able to stand. So as I was adding more things to my life, I never fixed that foundation. I just put on tape, and I put on small things that were temporary fixes. So for me, it was I needed to fix, and not fix, but heal that child that I was that felt abandoned. I needed to, and I really, by God, I mean, not by my parents, but like by God, because I forgive my parents. And I came to you, like, I forgive them. Like, why do I have beef still? Like, my parents and I are cool. I love them. I accept them for who they are. I cherish them now. But I still had beef because I forgave them, but I never healed who I was in that time. So those were like my major areas and then to be a secure adult who's not jealous, like a 12-year-old insecure person, because that's where I go in my mind. Is I become 7th grade, all those issues are following me. I remember sharing like embarrassing things with you guys, like, why is this girl still tripped up on this? My husband's like, why did high school ruin you so much? You're still talking about it. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I had trauma in middle school and high school. He's like, you need to get over it. So I was able to walk out of there as a healed 4-year-old, healed 8-year-old, healed 12-year-old, and a healed 20, however old I was 28, 29, 28-year-old, 29-year-old, healed to now be, I'm 30 today. Well, not today, but 2 weeks ago I became 30. And it's like, I'm healed leading up to that. Now I could be a one whole Victoria.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I just remember your soul spirit hurt. I was just looking at the notes, actually. It was just so, and it was funny. You were talking about hugs, but I think it was yours. Didn't Jesus like give you this hug? That
Yes.
was like, it was really good.
I was just reading that too. So I have my notes up like parallel. So I'm looking at those.
Sweet. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Like, that's a good metaphor too with the house and everything. You know, it's a really good. A lot of times, you know, people will think that they can fix up the exterior and things like that, and they think that they're getting to the roots. But a lot of times, the roots get neglected. A lot of times, just because people don't even know what they are.
Yeah.
And so,
and like you said, we can forgive and forgive and forgive. If the pain never gets healed,
yeah,
then we just keep functioning out of that pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think, I mean, that's also why we appreciated Bill so much, is because like people can come in with us and just have this like crazy healing, and it's like all in like 4 hours, but then we get to send them back to Bill.
Exactly.
And he helps them walk out.
Yes.
Like building the house essentially back up, or you know, continuing.
It's a perfect scenario because like there a lot of Bill's people, a lot of you guys are already in the, you know, working it out and being vulnerable and addressing different areas, and so, you know, there's an opportunity to have some more focused healing and things, and then you're immediately right back at it with Bill, where he's keeping you accountable and helping you apply the tools that you've received. So, like I said in the beginning, I'm just so grateful for the relationship we have with Bill, and the fact that we get to be a part of what he's doing and vice versa. It's so cool. Because, you know, there are other folks that we meet with where they don't necessarily have such a strong community or individual who's walking alongside them. And it's so crucial that people have that, you know, to be able to continue to move forward in self-discovery. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Thanks for sharing. That's
great.
It's nice to like just like refresh and hear both your testimonies and things about it, because like, you know,
it's encouraging.
Yeah, and like we meet with so many different people, and a lot of times we don't get to hear like all of what's gone on, or just like, you know, like recaps and things like that.
Bill gets the advantage of hearing all of that.
Exactly. Yeah. So. Yeah.
I second everything they said. Thank you both so much for sharing. Victoria, I wrote down what you said. Liz touched on it, but I forgave them, but I never healed who I was at that time. And I feel like that really emulates like my experience through archaeological journaling, like more so not just about going to those memories, but actually sitting and feeling those things that maybe I might have felt at 12 years old, but like relinquishing those emotions and healing that that little part of me that maybe I didn't even know was there when I just simply glaze over the memory. So that was really awesome.
I think we lost Victoria. She
Yeah.
jumped out.
Not too much fire. Her computer just was, it went.
Well, Pollyanna, let me ask you, and after the fact, I know that, Vinnie and Liz will give you.
She's on her way back, she said.
Yeah.
Sweet.
They give you some certain things to follow through on. And I think follow through and follow up is probably everybody's weak point and continuing on with things. But how did you do with that in terms of kind of taking what was, what you experienced that day and kind of continuing to integrate it into your life?
Well, after all that deep session, we always need to find the help, the people that can help you. And for me, in the daily basis, it's, like now I'm more aware of my weaknesses. So it's, like it helps me, when I have my up and downs moment, I try to calm my body and my mind, my soul down and, listen and talk to God. Like as this meditation, it helps a lot. That's what I feel like when I'm getting like struggle with something. I was like, I remember the session. So I was like, okay, let me just take a deep breath and, and connect myself with that, this part, like my body, my mind, my soul, and in God, definitely. So, and always that I remember, and I always keep telling myself that what I learned from them, that I know that I believe in myself because God believes in me and He created me perfectly. So I always constantly saying that to myself when I see myself on, anxious or insecure because I'm still in the process of the healing, constantly. We don't change like right away, So it's like, and even though like I always talk to God about, like my childhood and stuff. So to heal that part as well. So I'm keep doing that for sure. And definitely in reading the Bible as well. It's something for me that that's one other thing that came to my notes. And I remember the word Bible came to me.
Oh, that's right.
Remember, So that was I keep doing that for sure.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome because even in the work that we do, of course, there's this the process. It goes on, and it doesn't mean that we're always in counseling or we're always going for specialized work or whatever. But there's elements that we should be picking up and disciplines that we can add, into our lives that keep us moving and continuing to build the foundation that Victoria was talking about. And that's such a huge part of this. And you mentioned too, like fruits and roots, that the root systems, Vanessa and I definitely still working at areas of that in her childhood that, definitely need attention. And that plays into all the areas that we talked about with our thought life, how we feel about ourselves, believe about other people, perceptions of other people, how they perceive me. Yeah. All of that is just so huge, as we continue to move forward. So I think what's really cool, Pollyanna and Victoria both, it was such a profound experience, but it wasn't left behind. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just like, that was something I did like 2, 3, 4 years ago or whatever. It's something that sticks with you, mm-hmm. and hopefully continues to produce good fruit in your heart and your relationships as you move forward. Mm-hmm. Victoria, you're back. Thanks for coming back in. Baby.
You jinxed it, Bill.
Talk too soon. Well, I didn't see any questions, Vanessa. I don't know whether you are hiding them somewhere, but I didn't see any.
I didn't see either. I think honestly what you guys are talking about is just, at least in my opinion, I just know that this is something I need to experience. So it's not even like I have questions necessarily, more so just how do I get started? So I'm sure a lot of people are intrigued and have taken a lot away from hearing testimony. And I'm just so grateful to hear from you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for letting us share and everything. Appreciate it.
So maybe at this point, then maybe you can tell people how to get a hold of you and investigate this further.
Yeah, so I do believe somewhere we have posted our website, I believe. I don't know if it should be in the, might be in notes or something, but
It's vpdsministry.org. And
Mhm.
then if you're interested, you can just email or call Vinnie. Our information's on there.
Yeah, on
And
the website.
there's more details about RTF. There's also a link to their organization website.
Yep.
If you just want to know more about them, they have, there's a lot of ministry teams all over the world, and trained at all different levels. So, yeah.
And then, primarily now, because everything happening in the world, we've been, originally we were meeting with folks in person, but, there's been a lot that's opened up now. Obviously, we're doing a lot of stuff on Zoom. So it's very similar to what's happening with you, Bill, and most of the folks you've been meeting with. You've been way back anyway. So, but yeah, so
people just need to inquire on your website. They'll get a hold of you. You'll follow it through with whatever next steps are necessary after that.
Yeah. I don't know if we can post maybe.
I just put it in our comments.
Oh, that's perfect.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. And then my email address is demarcovinnie@gmail.com. So you can email me, or you can just chat with Bill and let him know you're interested, and he can connect us as well. Usually I end up just calling people on the phone once they get a hold of us. It's just easier to talk and, just discuss things on the phone. So, but email's good as well.
Okay, finally got that one up there.
Thanks.
Sweet. Awesome.
And you said DeMarco Vinnie at Gmail?
Yep, all lowercase, IEVINNIE @gmail. Yeah. So.
Well, this was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, this was great. I'm certain that people are going to be contacting you for sure. At least one who happens to be sitting here with us right now. And I don't even have to recommend it. You sold her on it today. So before we close real quick, Ness, I'm working on doing a book of the week besides the process. And this is this week's book.
Oh, I love that.
I know it's kind of transparent because of the background thing going.
With the background.
But this one is The Life You've Always Wanted by John Ortberg. I've been recommending this for many years. It's just a great book to kind of sink your teeth into and keep you involved in the process of moving forward. Because, you're never standing still. You're either going forward or you're going backwards. And then there's always this one here called The Process by this guy, Bill Hoffman. Great book, outlines the process, of course, and gives you questions at the end of each chapter that you can kind of sink your teeth into and really, engage in the process. And working on the next book, which hopefully will be out in September, which is a guided journal and devotional. So I'm excited about that too, to help people kind of have a companion to walk through an entire year of the process. So, and you guys, Vinnie and Liz, you just recently moved to Nashville.
Yep.
So anybody who's in the Nashville area or nearby, I know there's one person at least is going to be driving out to see you soon.
That's right. Yeah. This week.
Yep. So I'm sure there's some people down there, some of our, folks that are down in Atlanta area and so on. Would love to see you in person.
For sure. Yeah.
And so thank you so much for just hanging out with us today and sharing everything. Looking forward to more. And Pollyanna, thank you I know you're about ready to have a baby.
Yeah.
So exciting.
So thanks for doing this. And I'm glad you made it through the hour here.
Thank you guys very much for the opportunity to share.
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Definitely was a great experience in my life. And if everybody can do this detox, it will be amazing for sure.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Transformation, definitely.
That's the key word.
That's
Yes.
right.
And Victoria said she's, I guess Verizon's outside the door screwing everything up for her internet.
Oh,
Okay. She's thanking everybody and so on. And I'm so happy that she was here too. So.
Thank you, Victoria.
yeah. Thanks so much.
All right. So, we'll have to do a round 2 at some point, and we'll
Sure.
work on that down the road.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, we'd love to.
But thanks everybody for being here. And we'll see you next week.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Everybody.